So I'll talk you through the spread, and this is a version of the spread that you'll find on my Manifesting with Tarot course. And that spread is a releasing spread. So with manifesting, sometimes before we can invite new things into our lives, we have to let go of what's taking up the current space. So in the Manifesting with Tarot course, that is linked with the Death card in the Tarot, Major Arcana 13, which is all about clearing space, letting go, transformation, allowing the energy of transformation in. And so in that course, in that spread, we have 13 positions. This is a modified version of it, and we have 7 positions, and we have 3 different areas of life. So I'll talk you through it. So the 3 different areas of life are home, finances, and career. So in case you can't tell from my drawings, this is a picture of a house to represent home, some currency signs to represent finances, and a laptop to represent career. I know not everyone works at a laptop, but it was what came to mind for me. So with these 3 different areas of life, and if you want to modify the spread and do it for yourself, you can use any different areas of life. But we have 2 positions for each. So along the bottom, we have what is the current state in each of these areas of life. And then along the top, we have what to let go of. And then we have another card at the top, which I'll pull last, which will pull the reading together. And that is your current higher purpose or current purpose. So that is our reading, and we'll go ahead and pull some cards. So I'll invite you to take a deep breath. And just intend to receive what you need from this reading. And if there is anything that is going on for you in these areas of home, finances, or career, then you might just bring that to mind as well. So taking a deep breath and setting your intention to receive what you need. And today I'm using the This Might Hurt Tarot by Isabella Rotman. Okay, so our first card, let's look at the area of home, and we'll pull the first 2 cards together actually. And so firstly, we have the current state at home or with home, and what to let go of. So that's quite interesting. What those cards are the Page of Cups and the 5 of Pentacles. So we'll start with the Page of Cups in the current state. How are things at the moment in the area of home for us? And the card we have is the Page of Cups. We can see here a young person. They're on the seashore. They're wearing a lovely flowery decorated shirt. And they have the seas in the background, sort of some rock pools there as well. It's fairly calm. You can see waves. And they have a goldfish or a fish in a clear bag. Now, I love this card. I've told this story before. I think I might be about to tell it again. There was a day when I had pulled this card as my card of the day, and for many, many years I lived in the Algarve, in a village about 10 minutes from the coast. So on this particular day, I'd gone down to the beach with some friends of mine, and we found on the beach there had been a really high tide a couple of days before. So there was the beach sort of coming up, the sand coming up away from the sea, and then a little dip behind it. It's an old river mouth, but had a tendency to dry up. And this really high tide had stranded a load of fish, mullet, in a pool just on the inside of the sandbar, so they couldn't get back to the sea. So what had been going to be a day of simple lounging on the beach actually turned into a day of getting a bucket, filling it with seawater, catching the mullet by hand in the pool on the inside of the sandbar, and then running them over to the sea and returning them to the sea. And this almost looks the same in this image of this young person who has that fish, which is in a small clear plastic bag. So it's not a nice home for a fish, but ready to return it to the sea. So this isn't a traditional interpretation of the Page of Cups, but given that image and that understanding of the Page of Cups that I have built, there may be something here about putting things right, putting things into their right place. Then more traditionally, the Page of Cups, the cups is about the heart, the emotions, and the page often represents either a young person. If you have children at home, this might be your children, or the sort of inner child, or the state of the beginner's mind. And particularly with the Page of Cups, that might be about beginning to sense into your emotions, accepting that you don't know everything. So I'm going to come back to this together with the Five of Pentacles, but the current state at home might actually be one of safety, or of safety being accessible, of perhaps needing to do a bit of work to return things to their right place, to put that fish back in the water, and of a way of being that's available to you, of this sort of beginner's mind, or this approaching life with an open heart. So I often see the cups as associated with gratitude, so perhaps some gratitude, or certainly less. We can build up defences or cynicism sometimes, can't we? And this is the card that's the opposite of that we don't need that. So home's a safe place to be playful, maybe even childish, childlike. And to be in your emotions in that way. And then what to let go of, and this is really interesting because it contrasts so much with that card, is the Five of Pentacles. And here you can see two people they're outside in the snow, in front of a lit window. It's a stained glass window, in the kind of shape that you often see church windows. But they're outside, they're in the cold, they're wearing rags, their clothes are all kind of patched and torn. One of them doesn't have any shoes on and is kind of huddling underneath that window. And the Five of Pentacles is about insecurity. So whilst acknowledging that, because the Pentacles are about the material, health and wealth, whilst acknowledging that not everyone has complete material security, and that when you don't have that is a real thing, and can impact your quality of life. At the same time, with the Five of Pentacles, often there is an invitation to ask yourself if your insecurity is warranted. So the Five of Pentacles can represent an approach of feeling insecure, especially about sort of the material, health and wealth. And there is an option to very practically go inside that lit space there. The space is there. And I'm sure those people who are out there in their rags in the snow have their reasons for not going into that space. Perhaps there's something they don't want to compromise on. But there is a practical solution of going in and using that space and claiming that space in some way. So what's the most interesting about these two cards is the complete contrast. So here's a Page of Cups saying the current state of things is safety. Things are ready to go back to where they need to be. And meanwhile, let go of the Five of Pentacles. Let go of this insecurity. So it is possible that actually at home, some of us are moving out of a state of insecurity And that's what this putting the fish back in the water is about, actually. Returning the fish to the ocean moves it from a state of insecurity back to a safe place. So there's a transition that's quite naturally happening there, I think, about feeling more at home when at home. So the next position then is finances. And again, we'll pull two cards and I'll talk you through them individually and then together. So in finances, the first card that we will pull is the current state, what is happening. And we have the High Priestess. And then the card to accompany that, what to let go of, what to release. We have the Moon. That's a very interesting thing. I'll just note actually that with this spread, because we have current state and what to let go of, that can tell us like where we need a change and where we don't. So this first two positions of home are telling us that maybe we don't need to change anything because we are sort of naturally letting go of that Five of Pentacles energy by being in the Page of Cups energy. The High Priestess and the Moon are much more similar cards. They have an affinity to each other in their energy and in some of their symbolism. And so this tells us that we might need to make changes in the area of finance. So let's take a look at how that might be. So the current state of things is the High Priestess. And you can see here we have a person who is seated on a seat which is shaped like a crescent moon between two trees. In the background is a drape with pomegranates in it, and this person's holding a book, or not quite holding, it's suspended between their hands almost magically. And the High Priestess is a very, very magical card. So firstly, but what I think is indicated here, because we've got the Moon as well, the High Priestess is a card of the unconscious. So, and it's a major arcana card. These are both major arcana cards, which are about major life lessons or sort of energetic influences. So the High Priestess tells us that financially, we may not be behaving completely consciously. Now, this is very often the case for people with money. Money is just a symbol. It represents all the things that it represents, you know, that security, the Five of Pentacles, the means to exchange, to be able to have food and shelter and all of the things that we need in life, and perhaps some of the things that we want in life as well. So money is not a real thing, but it's such a big thing for so many of us, and it is often linked to unconscious behaviours because it is only representative of security, comfort, freedom, these kinds of things. These are the kinds of things that we can be pursuing very, very strongly on an unconscious level. And so what this means is that we kind of attach those values to money, to finances. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something to be aware of, that we probably do have some unconscious behaviors around money. However, the High Priestess is someone who she's like the queen of the underworld. She is in charge of the unconscious. She can work with the unconscious. She can be the bridge. Her space that she's in is a gateway. It's a liminal space. And the High Priestess can help us to move between the conscious and the unconscious mind. So if we're going to take this energy in finances, what we might do is intentionally do some unconscious work around what finances mean to us, and how we are behaving and believing around our finances. So she has a strength. But what to let go of is the moon. So it's interesting because the moon, just like the high priestess, is often about intuition and often about the unconscious. We have this. So in this picture, we have a full moon at the top of the card centrally, and underneath we have two humans with wolf masks on, and they're naked either side of a path which leads from water in the foreground to mountains in the background, and coming out of that water into the foreground and onto the path is a crustacean, big crustacean. So this creature coming out of the water is often interpreted to mean something coming out of the unconscious, something showing itself in the moonlight that might not necessarily show itself in the daylight. And it's also interesting that these people here, these human figures, are in masks. So they're also not quite showing their true faces and perhaps behaving in ways which are different from how they might behave if they thought they were being perceived. And because it's what to let go of, there is something around finances, some kind of unconscious. I don't know if it's a blockage, but it might be a belief, or it might be a stuck pattern, an old behaviour that it's time to let go of. So these two cards together, because they're so in alignment, the current state and what to let go of are so have that alignment with each other. They are telling us that something needs to change around the unconscious, in the unconscious and around the area of finances. So fortunately, though, because a bit of change and a big change might need to happen with this being major arcana, fortunately we already have the tools to make this change, because the changes in the unconscious, and the high priestess, the current state, is the queen of the unconscious, the priestess of the unconscious, the guardian of the unconscious. We already have those tools to do that unconscious work and let go whatever it is that's coming up about finances at the moment. And then our third life area, which is career. And again, we'll pull two cards for the current state and what to let go of. So firstly, the current state for career is strength. That's a lovely one. And then what to let go of is the Lovers. So another two major arcana cards here. Really, really interesting. Pairing as well. So almost what we're seeing is, with these three different areas of life, don't really need to make any major changes at home. We do need a change in the area of the financial, and something big is also happening in the area of career. So we'll start with the current state, strength. So again, it's a major arcana card, and firstly and very simply, it may be that you're in a state of strength in your career. So that your career is going strong, that you are using your strengths in your career, and that your career is a strength in your wider life as well. And what we have here in the card, we have a person and a lion, and the person has a floral wreath on their head, the lion has a floral wreath around their mane, and the person has an infinity sign over her head, and the person has her hand on the lion's face. And this is often taken to represent, traditionally this has been seen about sort of taming ourselves, taming our wilder natures. I see it more rather than sort of taming or wrestling. We're not wrestling that lion. We're making friends with it. As it being more about accepting those parts of ourselves that can feel a bit wild, that can seem a bit dangerous, perhaps even. Lions are not safe creatures, are they? But sort of befriending that part of ourselves. So often it's about not the sort of shadow work itself, but the results of the shadow work. This kind of being able to accept yourself and to understand yourself and to be at peace with yourself, but also to use those parts that you like the least, to recognize them as strengths as well, and to be in alignment with them, and to have a good relationship with them, and to sort of use them to towards whatever it is that your goal is. So in your career goal, you are using, or you can use, all parts of yourself. So there's strength here, there's strength available to us as well. Sometimes this can also mean that some testing times come up. Sometimes we're invited to build our strength, and we get strong, we get resilient through facing and overcoming obstacles. So if there are obstacles about for you at the moment, know that you are in the process of building resilience. That might not make it any easier. It might do to know that. But really sort of, we have an invitation there to alignment with our whole selves. And then what to let go of. And we have the Lovers. So I love this rendition of the Lovers. It's one of those cards that, for me personally, in tarot decks, I tend to either sort of love or hate. It is a card of bringing together of two things. Sometimes to create strength. And it can be about lovers, but it's about so much more than that. It's about values, it's about choice. And so sometimes, so I like that in this deck they've kept there's an angelic sort of being above the two human lovers who is naked in the foreground between two trees, and this angelic being is shooting an arrow not directly at them, but off to one side. And the two humans are embracing, but they're also aware of their surroundings. And so it is a card about choice, about bringing things together. And it's a card of values. So often I would interpret this card when it comes up in a reading as being about living to your values, making choices according to your values. But of course, this is in the position of what to let go of. And so I'd say if you've been stuck in your choices, I'm not going to say don't choose according to your values, because that would not be according to my values. But if you've been stuck in your choices and perhaps trying to find the right choice, maybe there isn't a right choice. Maybe there are just choices. And that can be very empowering to discover, and it can help you to get unstuck. That actually, there is not a right and a wrong choice, or a right choice and other wrong choices. There are different ways to try things. And as long as you are acting towards your values, then it's the right choice. So if you have been second guessing yourself around choices and worried about whether the choice you're making is the right one, you can let go of that. There's no such thing as a right choice. And sort of trust that, allow that. But also, although the energies here are big energies because they're major arcana, the thing to let go of is minor, because actually the Strength and Lovers, being both major arcana, and the positioning of them with the figure or figures in the center, And the colours even are complementary, although they're not the same colours. We have kind of sort of peach and yellow and green in the Lovers, and yellow and orange and peach with the Strength, and then a kind of more open blue, turquoise, teal sky. Those colours complement each other, which says, and this is important for this particular reading, that these things are in some alignment. So we don't need to make huge career changes necessarily, but we do have a little more freedom of choice than we first thought. So our final card for the reading is going to be up here at the very top of the reading, and it is the position of current higher purpose, or current purpose. What's most important? And we have, it is another major arcana card, and it's the Chariot. I love that to pull all this together. It's not like any of the other cards in the reading. It is a major arcana, so it again speaks particularly to finances and career, because they both had major arcana cards, but I believe this speaks to all areas of life. And you see here we have a person, and they're astride 2 motorbikes, so they have a foot on each one, and they have a wand in their hand, and they're standing very strong, very tall, and they have a star at their brow, and their head is surrounded by, it's the sun behind them, I believe, but it looks like a halo of light. We've got a sort of orange sky and a city in the background. And the Chariot is all about calibration, direction, intention, balance. So firstly, the advice of the Chariot, which is perfect for this reading, is to check in, what direction do you want to go? It's amazing if you have the skill and the ability and the courage to stand on those 2 motorbikes and move. That is really amazing. But if you don't know what direction you're going in, you're just going to be riding around in circles. So the invitation of the Chariot is to be very clear, very intentional about what direction you want to be going in, so that you can point those motorbikes at them. And then in this card, the theme of balance comes up perhaps a little bit more than in other decks, because there is a foot on each motorbike, and balance is really important, because if you fall off, you could hurt yourself. And the way to find that balance is by checking in. And this is the key, one of the other key message really of the Chariot. It's about calibration, checking in. What are you in balance? What direction are you going in? Are both feet pointing in the same direction? Are you going at the correct speed? Are the different parts of you going at the same speed? All of those things. And then readjusting if you need to. You know, it's okay to readjust if you need to. And I think that was coming through a bit in that Lover's card as well, you know, that there's not one right choice. It's okay to readjust if you need to. You can make choices, and if they're not the right choices, you can change your direction. You can change your speed. You do have that agency, and so there's real agency in this card. So the invitation for this reading from the Chariot is to get really clear about direction, what direction you want to be, aligned in how fast you want to get there, what do you want to go past on the way, and then really keep checking in with yourself for that balance, and check that you're in alignment with yourself, again like that Strength card there. Accepting all the parts of yourself so that you can bring them with you. We can't leave those behind. So that's our reading for the releasing spread in the areas of home, finances and career. Thank you so much for joining me.